Welcome to Human Dreaming, the podcast for curious dreamers. Today, I am very excited to welcome Anah Reichenbach on Human Dreaming. Driven by a troubled childhood, from an early age, Anah asked the big questions. Who am I? And what is life for? This led to many mystical experiences, including lucid dreaming from the age of 6, sleep paralysis in her 20s, and bizarre close encounters with wildlife. Desperate to heal, she rediscovered her natural joy in the unlikely form of a hula hoop at a music festival. This chance encounter would lead to 20 years of performing and teaching her own creative form of hula hooping, the modern art of hoop dance, sparking a worldwide resurgence in hula hooping for dance, art, fun, and healing. Anah lives to bring light to the deepest experiences in life and loves to share her insights, humor, experiences, and healing process with others through her blog, speaking, and workshops. So Anah, it's so delightful to have you here today, and thank you so much for being here. I am very excited to talk to you about all things dreams.
Oh, yeah. I'm super excited to just dive in. I'm glad we have potentially a whole hour to do so.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, diving right in, what do dreams mean to you?
Whew. Well, you already mentioned in my bio that I had a troubled childhood, and dreaming was one of the first kind of escape mechanisms in a lot of ways. But it came about in a really strange way. Like when I was little, I often couldn't tell the difference between dreaming and awake. Like my early life was really bizarre. I just came in that way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is I I was a bedwetter, like chronically, way too old to be a bedwetter. I was like 6 or 7, and the doctors couldn't figure it out. And I finally realized that I was dreaming that I was going to the bathroom, and I couldn't tell the difference between waking and dreaming, right? I had all these weird little tests. Like I would close my eyes and count to 3. And when I opened my eyes, if it was the same, then I was awake. And if it was different, then I had been dreaming. So that's how like separated I was from what was reality and what wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I started asking myself every single time I went to the bathroom, because it was so embarrassing. And I was petrified. I was like, oh my God, like make this end. I had the plastic sheets and the whole thing. I'd ask myself every time I went to the bathroom, am I dreaming? And as you know, that is all it takes for that first yes to begin lucid dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I started lucid dreaming when I was, 6 or 7, and it became like a port in the storm from, all the shit that I experienced through my childhood, where I would just sleep half the day because it was so much more exciting and safe and pleasurable and weird and cool to be in my dream life than to be in my waking life half the time.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was really significant for a good portion of my life.
Yeah. Oh, that's really amazing. And so
Yeah.
you kind of found a refuge in lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recall any of the places or experiences that you would take yourself to during that time?
Yeah, it started also, one of the catalysts for this too was that I was having really extraordinarily petrifying nightmares.
Mm.
And because I couldn't tell the difference between waking and dreaming, it would often, like, I was convinced that it was real. There's a part of me that's like, you know what? There was some real shit going on,
Yeah.
Um, and so my mom showed me how to just think about all my favorite things before I went to bed
Mm-hmm.
to try and have good dreams, which totally worked, And so I carried that over into once I became lucid. I used that same skill while I was in the dream time to
Mm-hmm.
shift my dreams. So sometimes the dreams were really intense, and I would learn how to shift them into something that was less intense or more pleasurable. But
Mm-hmm.
most often, especially when I was a kid, my dreams were more like journeying. Like I would be going to, strange worlds, talking to strange beings and creatures and like aliens. And, that continued through my 20s. So I just had a lot of like really wild adventures. I didn't have a lot of recurring dreams, but I had some recurring worlds that I went to. Like there was
Sure.
a couple of them. There was one that was like a long hallway, with just like an infinite number of doors. And behind each door was a different world.
Mm.
So I would play with like, I wonder what's behind this door. And I would go through that door and find myself in some other reality. And that often, like, I have like a scale of lucidity, right? So that dream often I wasn't like super high lucid. I was only a little lucid. I was lucid enough to know it was a dream, but not lucid enough to really feel like myself. Like there's a lucidity level that I have experienced where like I feel my body, I feel the wind, I feel the sun, I feel exactly like I feel right now, but I'm in the dream and I know I'm dreaming, right? So there was one time where I entered that dream. This is so freaking bizarre, okay? I entered that dream like in my full lucidity, and I was like, oh shit, like I'm here and I'm really high lucid. Like I wonder what I can experience now, right? And so as I'm opening a door, I like this door cracks open and this light starts spilling out. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like I'm so lucid, I could really be here. I can really be here. And that kind of started repeating in my mind. And I slipped a little bit and fell through this doorway. And I landed like this, and I'm thinking I could really be here. And my whole body started buzzing, like becoming more physical. And then I got freaked out. I was like, oh shit, like I don't want to really be here, And I woke up and I was laying in the exact same position as I was in the dream. And
That's
so I had a lot of bizarre experiences like that. Like there's like some dreams that are more interpretive that, there's something going on for me to interpret. And then there's other dreams that I have that feel more like Carlos Castaneda-ish, like there's something real going on,
Yeah,
like
that's what I was immediately when you said that, I thought, wow, it sounds like she's tapping into the multiverse, like jumping through those layers into parallel worlds. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
They're not all like that. I mean, I had to make a choice at some point to like be in this physical reality and cut down the amount of time I was sleeping, because I would sleep for 12 hours and be awake for 12 hours, like through my teenagehood and into my early 20s. And so it was like dedicated to the dream, but it hasn't been like that because I just, can't always sleep for 12 hours. It just doesn't work.
But you mentioned in your bio, it mentioned about, having a troubled childhood, and escaping into that alpha theta state or lucid dreaming is a very safe way to have a defense mechanism.
Yes.
To be like your mom, showed you how to imagine your favorite things and to take yourself there. And that's, basically it's a form of self-hypnosis.
Right.
You can't be in that state if your parasympathetic nervous system isn't engaged. So you can't be stressed out and be in that state. You have to be in a state of relaxation, meditation, self-hypnosis, be able to access that. So I think that's, considering everything you had going on, that was probably a very healthy choice for your subconscious to make to take you there and create these worlds or experience these worlds, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I mean, it kept me connected to, some level of pleasure and excitement and adventure, and took me out of the high emotional, intensity of my regular life. So it was a saving grace for sure.
That's amazing. Do you find that you still access that place when you get stressed out, or is it a tool that you still have in your kit for managing stress?
Not as much, because for me, the height of my dreaming happens after I've been sleeping for 8 hours.
Okay.
So, and, I've got a much busier schedule now. So I often, don't have the luxury of sleeping for 9 to 10 hours,
Sure.
I still have dreams, but they're not like that whole time period of childhood till about mid 20s. Once in a while I'll be hit with one. I'm like, oh yeah, I still got it. They're more on the level like processing, and like, wow, there's a lot of anxiety that needs to process through my system right now. Like I know what that's about, like being chased or having to save someone and struggling to save someone, those kinds of things. Or my top anxiety dream when I'm like, wow, I really got some anxiety work out is chasing after my dog, and that my dog not listening to me. I'm like screaming her name, and she listens really well. This is like not a reality. And she's like running, and I'm running after her, like yelling her name, and she won't listen. I'm getting more and more like fraught, and so I always know, I'm like, oh wow, okay, like I need to just like meditate and
Yeah.
bath, clearly I got some anxiety running through my system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool that you're so connected with your dreams. I really like that. Um, how do you feel that you're
There's a part of me that really longs for the old ways, but
Sure.
I lived it. It was like a whole incarnation
Yeah,
where I was,
absolutely.
yeah, that dream person.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
have those memories from that too. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So how do dreams affect your daily life?
Oh, so my dad taught me, this is really cool. So I don't always remember this, but I try to, where my dad's an astrologer. So he's a deep, spiritual dude. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the likes of, treat what happens in your day as if it wasn't a dream, like the same way you would interpret something that's happening in a dream. Don't just let those signals pass you by in your waking life.
Mhm.
So, if a butterfly crosses my path, or, usually it's connected to the natural world, or a hawk, I stop and I take a moment and I express some gratitude, whether it be internal or, actually speaking it, for the signal and the meaning that being is bringing into my life, whether it's like a butterfly, I'm like, oh, okay, thank you for reminding me that I'm transforming and that I have to go through the cocoon to get so
Yeah.
I tend to run with, whatever that symbology is happening in my daily life, as if I was dreaming.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So basically, your dreams affect you in that they're always present in your daily life. So you treat your dream world the same way you do your external world in terms of bringing in the signals and interpreting and understanding them.
I do. And I think that maybe a little bit is a holdover from not being able to tell the difference
Sure.
from when I was a kid. Because there's still moments where I'll have a surreal moment where everything becomes really like focused and present, and I feel like the cosmos. And usually it's just like a blip, but in that moment I'm like, oh, I'm dreaming right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might be, especially since you're
Yeah.
able to slip into that space so readily.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
Do you have a memorable sleeping dream that changed your life in some way?
Yes. Well, I have many, but the one
Okay.
that's coming to mind is this is like one of my favorite dreams. So, and I use the terminology waking up into the dream,
Hmm.
because it's often like, I close my eyes to sleep and I open my eyes, I'm in the dream. It's like really fast like that.
Hmm.
So I woke up into this dream, and I'm looking at this giant mountain, and I look up at this mountain, and in the face of the mountain is the visage of this like just scary, like powerful God, like an angry God, and
Hmm.
its eyes are closed, and it just has this like this scowl, and it's like horrifyingly frightening. I'm like,
Hmm.
holy shit, like that's intense, because the whole entire side of this mountain is this face, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking up at it, and I look closer, and I see these people are crisscrossing the mountain, and these little like small like from some village or tribe somewhere, like brown people wearing like more tribal dress, and they're going up and down the mountain, and they're hitting it with a stick, and they're just like
Mm.
chanting and like pounding like this like ritual. And I start to get really scared. I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna wake it up, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And I'm like, that can't happen. Like, this is gonna like destroy everything, So I run up the mountain, and I'm like running from like tribesperson to tribesperson, like begging them to stop, like please
Mhm.
stop doing it. And they're just kind of like shooing me away, like, no, 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 like this is like, we're doing this, this is like part of the ritual. And so sure enough, the mountain starts to shake, and I lose my footing, and I tumble back down to like where I started in the dream at the bottom, looking up. And it's starting to like wake up, and I'm just like, oh shit, I'm laying down on the ground now, looking up like, oh shit, it's happening. And
Wow.
as soon as its eyes start to crack open, and it was a little bit like, that movie, oh shit, I'm forgetting the name. There's a scene in a movie that you totally know, where the character has to make it to this gateway, and it's these giant statues, these sphinx statues, and their eyes crack open, and this light starts to shine out.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's not Indiana Jones. It's
Never ending story. Never ending story.
Neverending Story. There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like that. So the eyes started to crack open, and as soon as they started to crack open, this light started to shine out. and it shines like right down on me, and all of a sudden the face transforms, and it's like, whew, it's very emotional,
Mm.
into like the most beautiful goddess, like the most loving, beautiful goddess like you'd ever seen, and she just looking down at me with like so much love. And I'm just like laying here, like soaking it in, like I'd never felt that much love in a dream.
Mhm.
And it was super intense, obviously, because it still gets to me. And this is like 15 years ago, 20 years ago or something. And and right then I realized, like, wow, in the dream, I'm realizing this, that what I was most afraid of holds the most powerful love, you know?
Mhm.
And when I woke up, I was like analyzing the dream a little bit. I was like, oh shit. So, like, those villagers were like all the stuff that happens in life that is unstoppable. Like, they are just doing their thing. They're shaking it up because you have to be shook up to get to your gift. You have to be shook up. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Right. And you don't want to stop it really, but it's the fear that keeps you from seeing the gift that's in there. And if you just surrender, like me falling down the mountain and then just laying there was like an attitude of surrender, then like the most beautiful gift that was hiding behind all that fear gets to like get to shine out.
Oh, wow.
And that's still like one of the most kind of archetypal powerful dreams that I remember whenever I forget who I am,
Mhm.
or forget how to access who I am. Like, oh yeah, like that is living inside of me.
Oh, that is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love how clear that is and how powerful. Uh,
Yeah.
and another thing too is you already analyzed the dream for yourself, but one of the really powerful indicators of the meanings of dreams is the emotions that you're feeling in it. Like a lot of times we get hung up on the visual symbols,
Right.
but a lot of times it's like, you might be looking at something beautiful, but feeling fear, and so if you're feeling
Mm,
fear, then like, is that really, a positive symbol in your dream, right? So
right.
you were feeling like all of this intensity, and then by like letting go, you were able to feel that profound love and find your way, your
Yeah.
your gift. And I think that's really amazing and powerful.
It was super powerful. Yeah, still is. I
Yeah.
mean, some of those dreams can just they stay with you for a lifetime.
Yeah. So did the dream end on that powerful love, or was there some
Yeah.
sort of,
Yeah,
yeah.
I woke up like shortly after.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really incredible.
Yeah, the my most powerful dreams are like that, where I wake up in the dream and then it's like boom,
Yeah.
where some of the more like where I'm processing things, they like transition into something else and something else and something else and something else. And it's like this
Mhm.
long, weird, convoluted thing.
Yeah.
Have like a clear bookend, like the more, powerful dreams. Yeah.
So do you just remember your dreams, or have you kept a dream journal?
I do have a dream journal. I haven't been writing them down recently, but I've been wanting to start again because I think I find when I'm recording my dreams, they come more
Hmm.
and they're a little bit stronger. They're a little bit clearer. It's like a signal to the universe, like I'm listening, I'm paying attention, I want more of this, like by putting your effort and taking the time to actually record them.
Hmm.
So I do have a book of all of my, most powerful dreams written down uh, somewhere in
So
here. But I haven't been recording them for a while. No. Yeah.
it seems like you have a lot of them that are equally as clear as waking memories, though. So that's really interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The most powerful ones for sure. Like they're living, inside of me still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this might be a redundant question since we've been talking a lot about your sleeping dreams and the fact that sometimes sleeping and waking can kind of be a little bit of a blurry line. But
Yeah.
do you have any like fully awake dreams, fantasies, like um, ambitions, like that kind of dream? Like I have
Hmm.
a dream type of dream that came to you and changed your life.
Hmm. Like something more like something that I want to be or,
Yeah, like
oh, well,
something you want to be, or something that just came to you in like a flash of inspiration, like in the shower brushing your teeth, or
yeah.
as you were hooping for the first time. Have you ever had any of those flashes, or just kind of moments of a dream or a wish, a fantasy or an ambition coming to you?
Yeah. Well, I have two answers to your question. One, it's probably more direct, is in my early days of hooping, when it was still just like me being the one weird girl, spinning around in a meadow with a hula hoop. Um, there was like this clear feeling after I started making hoops, so still the early days, I was just making hoops and selling them at music festivals. But I was starting to feel the power of it in my own life, the transformative power of the hoop,
Mm-hmm.
and how much it was doing for me, like emotionally and physically and everything. And I just had this flash of like, wow, like the world needs to do this, and I was not that bold back then.
Mm-hmm.
There was something about that, like I was convinced that this is what the world needed. Like I was going to save the world with hula hooping, I
Yeah.
mean, I was in my early 20s. I was very idealistic, right? But it caused me to start these conversations with people that maybe didn't think they could hoop, or they never tried it before. They thought it was dumb, that I was like really pushy about it, because
Yeah.
I had this sense of like, no, like if you do this, you are going to, like, your life is going to be changed. And I want that, And so people would be like protesting. I'm like, no, you're doing this right now, And I've never been that pushy, like in that way about anything before or since, So it was interesting, how that caused me to just have more boldness. I don't know. But the other thing, this is maybe not exactly what you're asking, but this is what the first thing that came in when you were asking it was, I had this experience when I was 17, and I was in like full teenage angst. My mom had grounded me for an entire year because I was ditching school. I
Mm-hmm.
was reading fantasy science fiction books for 8 hours a day, 500-page books a day, and then sleeping and dreaming the other parts of the day. I
Mm-hmm.
was deeply depressed. And I would make an excuse to leave the house to go call my best friend on the payphone down the
Mm.
street from the house. So, because I wasn't allowed to call my friends, I wasn't allowed to see my friends. It was like nothing, So I was walking down the street to call my friend at the payphone. I'm walking across the street, and I'm just filled with angst. I'm filled with like, what the fuck is this life for? And I was just asking this question so powerful, like, who am I and what is life for,
Mm-hmm.
And then I blinked, and in that blink, I all of a sudden like shot out, and I was the cosmos. Like I was bigger than the cosmos, and I knew everything. Like I was the cosmos for like this split, literally a blink of an eye, mid-step. And like I had all the answers to all of my questions. All of my destiny was laid out before me. And then I opened my eyes, and it was gone.
Mm.
Like I didn't know any of the stuff that it was shown in that moment,
Yeah.
but I had this sense that there was more,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave me this like, oh, okay, like I'm not just this like weird alone creature that has no purpose. This
Mm-hmm.
life doesn't have like, it's not meaningless. There is something greater. There is a plan. There is something so huge that we are, and I just had this like really strong sense, even though I couldn't retain any of the details,
Mm-hmm.
that it gave me this sense of hope in a really, really freaking dark time. Uh, and I still can feel that feeling of like being the cosmos, even though I don't know the details. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was literally like mid-step, whoa, I'm the cosmos. Oh my God, I'm back again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was a waking dream. Yeah.
That's a pretty profound moment. I don't think I've ever had anything like that happen outside of mushrooms.
Yeah. Yeah. Mushrooms are good for that.
Yeah.
I was not on mushrooms at the time. Yeah.
No. So I think we talked a little bit about this briefly, but your recurring dreams, or do you have any other kind of recurring dreams or dream themes other than the anxiety of your dog running away and not listening?
That's kind of the main one. I haven't had that dream in a long time, but if I have a recurring dream, it's that. There was a recurring theme for a while of uh, telepathically speaking to various animals or creatures and having to like best them in some way,
Mhm.
like there was one I had about a wolf, and I was in this dark woods, and the wolf was like speaking to me telepathically, and it was saying like, you'll never win over me. You'll always lose. I'm more powerful than you. Like it was giving me all this kind of, and I had to like push through because it was in my head. And the only way to beat it was to cut off its head. And I'm a total animal lover. So obviously this is
Yeah.
like the last thing I want to do. And so I did. I had to like, like, no, you're not going to beat me. Like, I am going to win. And there was another one just along the same lines of like climbing up a cliff, face above the ocean, and in the ocean was this giant like sea dragon,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was swimming back and forth underneath me going, you're never going to make it up the cliff, you're going to fall, I'm going to eat you, you're
Mhm.
never going to make it, you're never going to make it. And I'm just like, no, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it. Like having to like, and it was like in my head, having to make it past that intense like
Mhm.
badgering of something that seemed to be more powerful than me, for sure. Yeah. So, and there was one other one I'm not totally remembering, but it was along those same lines, like some animal or creature
Mhm.
that was
That was
gonna
true.
kill me. Yeah.
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 When you mentioned earlier about your dreams about the hallway with the many, many doors, I had a really similar one when I was a little kid. And,
Oh yeah.
dreaming and fantasizing was definitely an escape
Mm.
mechanism for me as well. So I can very much relate to that. But mine was, I still do have recurring
Yeah.
dreams about houses and architecture
Mm.
to this day. But it was, instead of being like an infinite outward, it was the infinite unknown beneath me. So in underneath
Mhm.
every house, there would be this like little narrow walkway that I had to cross, but on either side was like an endless abyss. It wasn't
Ooh.
necessarily good or bad. It was what it was. And so it was just kind of like that unknown. And
Hmm.
I think that those kind of uh, recurring dreams that bring up those same things, and it sounds like your dragon one was about leaving behind that inner voice
Yeah.
and climbing up and listening to your higher voice, which is really interesting considering how
Mhm.
much you were kind of in an inner voice as a child and then climbing out of that
Yep.
as you
Hmm.
got older.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting.
Hmm.
um, so we've spoken a lot about lucid dreaming, but I'm still really curious about your period of sleep paralysis.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was super intense. I was 20 and I had just moved out of my family home for the first time. I'd moved up to Ojai and I was living in this little trailer on this giant piece of property that I was hired as a caretaker for. So I was like, I'd walk her dogs, I'd clean her house. And I loved this trailer. It was awesome. But it was my first time. I grew up in LA. So it was my first time living in the middle, like it was really remote, outside of Ojai.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I loved it, but it was definitely different. Like it was really dark at night. There was no street lights. I'd already kind of gathered this fear of the dark from somewhere. I don't know where that came from, but so there was like some fear running in me already. Like if it was nighttime, I would literally run as fast as I could from the trailer to her house
Yeah.
and just have this feeling like a saber-toothed tiger was chasing after me, like just like I've never run so fast in my life. So there was some fear kind of like coming up, but um okay, so this is a little bit of a roundabout story, but it's relevant. So
Yeah.
I had been there for maybe a month or two before it started, and in that month or two, somewhere in there, I'm cleaning the lady who owned the property and cleaning her bathroom, and I always got this weird sense from this one cabinet that had all these like oils and things in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally just asked her, I was like, "Are you a witch?" And she was like, "How did you know?" I was like, "Well, I just get this strange sense from this one cabinet." And she's like, "Yeah, that's where I keep all my potions."
Oh, wow.
And so she's like, "But don't worry, I'm a white witch." And of course I was fascinated.
Mm-hmm.
And she started teaching me some little things, like some little spells and how to feel energy and things like that. And that was really cool. But she started kind of like screwing with me a little bit. There were some little weird kind of manipulative ways. She started like, I was like, is she really a white witch? Like, I don't know. So there were some like kind of not totally on the light side of things starting to happen kind of, underneath. So shortly after that, I started having what felt like a dream of being frozen in my bed, like I was paralyzed, I couldn't move, and
Mm-hmm.
I could see through my eyes as if there were little windows really far away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm spinning inside of I know I'm inside my body, but I've become like this little seed. And
Mm-hmm.
the body is like this huge cavernous thing. And I could see outside my eyes like these little windows. And I would be spinning,
Mm-hmm.
spinning and spinning and spinning and feeling like I'm going to, leave my body, but not able to choose. And So I would push out of it by having to like scream really loud. And I wasn't actually screaming out loud.
Mhm.
Once or twice I had, my lover in bed and he's like, no, you weren't screaming. I was like, I
Oh,
was screaming, and I'd push out of it. And then often, as soon as I went back to sleep, I'd go right back into it. And so it was happening 5 or 6 times a night. I was getting like no sleep. And then that progressed into having a dream of this small being holding me down.
Mhm.
Like, oh shit, something's trying to possess me. Like if I leave, it's going to take over my body,
Mhm.
And I was convinced that something was trying to possess me. And of course, I'm getting more and more sleep deprived because I'm not really sleeping. And I was really sure that I was losing my mind.
Mhm.
Remember this one kind of like crux moment where my daily routine is I'd take her to little dogs on a walk around the property, and it was just on this dirt trail, around the property, and and I'd take my dog too, and I just was feeling this like welling up of like stress, anxiety, fear of like I literally thought I was losing my mind. I just started running. I was
Mhm.
just running, and I at the time I wore glasses, and my vision was really bad, so I would occasionally not wear glasses, so I can't see. Everything's completely fuzzy,
Oh,
and
wow.
I did that on purpose because there was something soothing about it sometimes, or it just felt like, it was just like a blob. So
Yeah.
I'm running down the trail. I can't see shit. The dogs are running after me, and I'm just like, somebody help me, like, dear God, universe, like I'm losing my mind and something's trying to possess me. Like, somebody help me. Um, and then shortly after that, it's where it goes back into dreams. I'm at my lover's house, and I have this dream that I hear a knock on the door. And in the dream, this is how I always know that it's like a powerful dream, is when the light in the dream is the same as when I went to sleep. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh shit, something's happening.
Right.
So in the dream, I am in the exact same place in the bed that I was when I went to sleep. And the light's exactly the same. I hear a knock on the door, and I hear one of my best friend's voice on the other side, who had been out of town. I was like, oh my gosh, you're home. Like, come in. He
Mhm.
comes in and he kind of jumps in the bed, and I'm like hugging him from behind. I'm like, so glad you're home. And then there's like this still moment, and then I hear his heartbeat, and it's not like a normal heartbeat. There's like, he's got 3 hearts.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wait a second, like, you're not my friend. And I start to like push him away, and he kind of like resists. And so I push him away harder. He tumbles down to the end of the bed, and now he's on the ground. And I look, and it's no longer my friend. It's this reptilian alien.
Mhm.
And then I'm aware then at that moment, there was another reptilian alien off to my left that had just been like sitting there observing. And so I sit up, and I'm just like, okay, you guys have been the ones fucking with me. I'm done with this. You guys need to leave me alone. This is over. And I said, bring on the light. And then this light shined from over my head, like behind my head, onto them. Now
Oh,
they're both
wow.
now at the foot of the bed, and just kind of like sizzled them out of existence. Like they just
Mhm.
dissolved and popped and were gone.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was the last time I had the sleep paralysis.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. It was over like maybe 3 or 4 months of time that it like the whole kind of
Mhm. And
cycle.
that was during the time that you lived in Ojai, out in the
Yes.
wilderness. Yeah.
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Yeah.
When did you move after that, or
No, I still lived there for a while, and then the whole thing went down in flames, not literally, but
sure?
yeah, she's like, there was a couple times where I heard her voice in my head in the morning,
Mhm.
and like, I would go in the house, and she would have this kind of like smug look on her face, and I was like, messing with me. No, that's right. She was like, no, did anything interesting happen this morning? And I was like, you know what? You need to stop messing with me. Like, that's not cool. It was like an invasion into my
Yeah.
space.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
So
wasn't being a good employee either. So the whole thing just became disastrous. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But you were able to intentionally stop that from continuing to happen.
That dream
Yeah.
seemed to stop it. There was a couple other times where um, I felt something similar to the sleep paralysis, but let go, and I actually left my body, and I had a couple of out of body experiences. But it was never like that frightening, something is, possessing me, or having to push out of it over and over and over again all night long. It was more just
Mhm.
like, oh, well, let me just see where this goes. And I popped out of my body a couple times, and that was also interesting.
Yeah.
But that was only a couple times, and then, yeah, and then it stopped. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really fascinating.
Yeah. It was
Um,
very wild.
You also mentioned mystical experiences with animals, and
Yeah.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So this is all the same time period in my life. It's still once in a while I'll have something. I'm like, okay, yay, I still got it. But yeah, like there very often happen. I would go through different animals. Like for 3 or 4 months, I would have had an experience with owls, close encounter experience with owls, and it was
Mhm.
3 times in a row over a couple of months. Like it was like one a month or something like that.
Mhm.
And each time it was during the day when you're not supposed to see owls,
Mhm.
and I was always with other people that happened to be looking some other direction. And it was directly across my line of vision. So, like one time, the owl came out of a tree and then went down like right here and flew right directly in front of me,
Oh,
and
wow.
then went back up into a tree, like really close. Another time it went from one tree, no reason for the owl to do this, from one tree out of the tree directly in my line of vision into another tree and then gone. And then another time it was, I looked up and there was a pigeon. And for some reason, I'm looking at this pigeon and it's flying right down the middle of the road in LA. Where,
Mhm.
like, when do you see a freaking owl in the middle of LA? It was kind of close to Griffith Park. And then right behind the pigeon, I see an owl chasing it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa, And all 3 times there was somebody with me that, and I was like, you see that? They're like, what? And I was like, ah, you know. So things like that would happen. Probably the most bizarre thing that ever happened was, and this was on the tail end of a psychedelic experience, but it was after we were already come down, so I wasn't like seeing things anymore. But it was me and a few friends were hiking in Yosemite. We had gone to a music festival, and it was after it was already done, and we went for this, awesome day hike, and
Mhm.
we're tripping around all day, and then we ended up in this river, and there's 3 or 4 of us. We'd been swimming in the river, for a while, and it was just a
Mhm.
beautiful sunny day, and we'd all gotten out and we're like laying on the rocks naked, and I'm laying on the rock for a while, and it's just like, this is like the most beautiful day. And then it's like something like glinting out of the corner of my eye, and I realized it's coming from my hand. Like, what the hell? And I looked down, and on my thumb was this bubble of water, and in the bubble of water was a juvenile dragonfly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like apparently I found this out later, but they have like a mucilaginous coating that
Mhm.
makes it so that the water does like stick to them. So I think
Mhm.
that's what made it possible. But like
Oh,
freaking weird,
wow.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and it's just like, like, what am I doing here? And I actually went and showed one of my friends. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I just hung out with it for a little while. And then I just stuck my thumb in the water, and it went boom, like
Oh,
shot out.
wow.
And an even weirder part of this is that unbeknownst to me at that time, I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So here's this symbol of
Oh,
this womb with a
yeah.
baby dragonfly in it, which the dragonfly is another creature that I had many, many, many close, strange experiences with.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so it was like this, like, the universe is like, hey,
Yeah.
something's happening. And that did not result in a child. But that was pretty direct communication, from the universe, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and there's so many stories, but
Mhm.
yeah, that's just a few of them. Sea
Wow.
creatures, a lot of sea creatures like sea lions and bat rays, and yeah,
Yeah.
various things very close. Yeah.
So, do you feel like maybe rather than being connected to one specific animal throughout your life, that the different animals kind of have different connections to different parts of your life?
I feel like there's like epochs,
Mhm.
like this, like,
Right.
wow, the owl was really present in that portion, and the
Mhm.
dragonfly was really present in that portion, and then the hummingbird was really present in this portion, and then, sea lions were really present in this portion. And so it's just, yeah, they're kind of go through, there's like phases, and it's not like they ever fully go away, that every once in a while they'll still kind of like jump out and give me like a wink and a nod.
Yeah.
But there's definite like very strong periods
Yeah.
that tend to like go. Yeah.
Yeah. Were
Mhm.
you with us at, it was one of the Fuentes years ago when we hiked way up the creek into one of the pools and we were swimming and there was snakes all in the water with us?
No. Ooh, what kind of snakes?
I don't remember. They were just like little water snakes, but they were all along the edges. Like they weren't swimming
Oh,
up the
wow.
middle where we were, but only along the edges of the rocks.
Wow.
But
What was your response to that?
I was pretty in tune with nature at the moment,
Yeah.
so
You're like, all right, guys, we can share.
yeah, exactly. It was totally fine. They weren't threatening. I don't think they were necessarily poisonous or anything, so
Yeah.
we were worried about it. But for some reason, I thought you might have been there.
I don't know, unless I somehow managed to forget that.
Yeah.
Maybe it had become so normal. I was like, yeah, whatever. Snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, are there any other
Hmm.
insights or comments, things that you would like to share, gifts that you would like to give to anybody before we finish?
Yeah, wow, that went by fast. Let's check in. Yeah, just that if you're interested in dreaming, that it really helps to make a really strong intention to remember your dreams before you go to sleep,
Hmm.
and to be really like, what helps for me is to like, if I really want to dream, I have learned things that block my dreaming. Things like being on my phone right before going to bed,
Hmm.
or things like not getting enough sleep on the regular, where you're sleeping too deeply, or
Hmm.
not drinking enough water, where my body isn't quite nourished enough. So I think it's going to be different for everybody. So kind of take note, like if you are dreaming, what did
Hmm.
I eat that day? What time did I go to bed? What did I do or not do before bed? Things like that are really helpful if you want a strong dreaming practice, and definitely writing them down. What I do is I will put a pad of paper and a pen next to my bed, and then in the middle of the night, if I wake up from a dream and it's really strong, I'll just write down a few keywords. And
Oh.
because often you're not, if you try to wake up enough to write down the whole thing, oftentimes it's too slippery, it's gone. But if you write down some really strong keywords and you keep your eyes closed, of course,
Mhm.
reading your handwriting later can be a challenge, but keep your eyes closed so that you're really in the dream, and write down as many keywords as you can. Then oftentimes that's enough to like spark it the next morning. You read it and be like, oh yeah, that was happening. Like, places, feelings, specific objects, things like that.
Mhm.
And then telling people. So if you relay your dreams to people, you often remember them
Mhm.
easier too. But just like speaking it, I guess even just like making a video recording of yourself speaking your dream would probably help you remember. But yeah, and just like being open to different kinds of dreams,
Mhm.
and having fun with it, and having an adventure with it.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's really solid advice, and I'm really glad that you mentioned writing down in the middle of the night, because that is the hardest time to remember. It's a little bit easier to remember our morning dreams, but
Yeah.
those middle of the night ones, and sometimes that is the part of the night when our brain is predicting. So
Hmm.
basically, your brain takes all of the information from the whole day and pairs it with all of the information that it has decided is important to save from your entire life, and kind of
Hmm.
how they go together. And then it tries to predict scenarios of like what might be coming up, so that if something like that does happen in real life, you're prepared. And so those are some of the harder dreams to remember, because they do often happen in the middle of the night. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. And that's all really wonderful advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, we didn't even get to so many things.
I know.
Like I literally had an entire, just really quickly, I had this happened twice, but I had an entire chiropractic adjustment in the middle of my sleep. Like it woke me up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like I was woken up feeling like somebody had taken me and gone like this, and my entire spine went like
Oh,
as I'm
whoa.
waking up. I was like, whoa. And then it happened again with my sacrum, where something like adjusted my sacrum and it popped, which is never done in my life. And
Mm.
that like woke me up in the middle of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
I don't
this is
even,
like recently this has been happening to you?
the sacrum one that happened just last year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Some really physical stuff coming into your
Yeah, I know. We didn't even get into the sex dreams. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus, I had a
Well,
succubus experience for sure.
I'll have to do a whole nother episode on that. So maybe we
Yeah.
can do an entirely different episode just on sex dreams, because I've got a few from the entirety of my memory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's some
That would
good
be really
stuff there
fun.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. We got a little tease for your listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to go through your your website and social media here. So it's
Yeah.
www.deepandlight.com.
Mm-hmm.
And on Facebook, you are at Anah Reichenbach. Same with Twitter.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, you are Anah Loves You with
With a
the
U.
letter U.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will be posting that on the website. So
Awesome. And there's a free gift on my website if you go on there. It doesn't have anything to do with dreams, but it's just 5 simple, easy practices to have a better day.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure everyone gets to try that. Thank you so much for sharing all of your dreams and your knowledge and your presence.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely wonderful to have you. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Britt. And I can't wait for our next juicy conversation.
yeah. And happy dreaming, everyone.
Yeah, happy dreaming.
We are supported by Human Dreaming, The Dynamics of Dream Interpretation by Sunshine Press. The Human Dreaming book can be purchased on Amazon.com, the Barnes & Noble website, or through your local bookstore. For Dream Share or help with interpretation, please join us at the Human Dreaming Facebook group. You can also find us on Instagram at human_dreaming. Thank you for listening and subscribing, and please join us again next week.